2024 70.3 Chattanooga Athlete Guide was posted about a week and a half ago. So let's dive in because the race is only a couple of days away here. So rolling down on our Athlete Guide, make sure you do read this. We're going to gloss over some of the key factors in here, and then we're going to talk about course specifics. So if you haven't had a chance yet, please make sure you check out the Athlete Guide, loaded with important info. Page 4, one of the most important pages on here is the event schedule out here. You can also find it outright in the Athlete tab on the website. 2 to 7 p.m. on Friday the 17th, Athlete check-in is available. There is no check-in on race day, as they mentioned a couple of times throughout this packet here. Ironman Village is open, but the most critical things here are the athlete briefings happening at 3 and 5 p.m., all at Ross's Landing. Saturday, May 18th, again, we have athlete check-in 9 to 4 p.m. Again, no athlete check-in on race day. Ironman Village open the same time with the Ironman store as well. Mandatory bike check-in and timing chip pickup happened today as well, and that is 9:30 to 4:30 p.m. We'll talk about this in a second, but you will also pick up your timing chip when you do check in your bike. You will not get it at athlete check-in. So two different steps there. 11, 1, and 3 all are athlete briefings, so ample opportunities to at least pop over and listen to some of the key course breakdowns for you. Sunday, May 19th, transition opens. This is race day. Transition opens 4:30 to 6:15 a.m. Athlete shuttle buses that take you from transition to the swim start are starting at 4:30 a.m. as well, and will run until 6:45. So you do have a 30-minute window for you after the transition closes to get on that last shuttle bus. Definitely don't advise that. I would advise getting through transition a little bit sooner rather than later, just to kind of minimize some of that race stress. Also on those shuttles, it's only athletes available to go on those shuttles, and spectators are not allowed on those shuttles. So this is probably going to be the last time you see your support crew outright here, unless they are making the trek by foot. Pro male race starts at 6:50 with the females popping off 3 minutes later at 6:53 with the age groupers following suit 10 minutes after the ladies, and that is at 7:03 a.m. Ironman Village is open. Food tent happens from 11 to 5:30. Mandatory bike checkout and gear checkout happens from 2 to 5:30, and then the awards happen on the same day at 4 p.m., and that is at the awards tent in the Ironman Village. Don't be late because awards will go very, very quickly, and they're usually pretty prompt. Page 6 is our athlete check-in. It is Friday, May 17th, 2 to 7, Saturday, the 18th, 9 to 4 p.m. It's at Ross's Landing. Address is listed right here. What to bring is your photo ID or passport, activeqr.com registration QR codes that you got when you registered or signed up there. It lists the check-in steps. So you're going to provide your QR code, show your ID, and you're going to receive your race packet and your giveaway items and yada, yada, yada. Couple of new things here. Medical information. If you do have a known medical condition, please stop by the solutions table at Athlete Check-in. Here you're going to get a special wristband. You're also encouraged to write down the details of your medical condition on the back of your bib, just in case something does happen. So you'll have the extra wristband. You'll also have stuff written down on the back of your bib, and that will help medical professionals assist you in case of emergencies. Emergency contact information is also listed on our top right here. That is that 813 number right there. And that is the emergency phone hours, 2 to 8 on Friday, 9 to 7 on Saturday, 4:30 to 5 on Sunday. That is a very, very unutilized number for a lot of people. A lot of crazy things can happen in the days leading up to a race, and if something happens and you need to get an exemption or something like that, that is going to be the number that you're going to have to call at check-in or where have you to make sure everything is peachy key. When you do check in, your athlete pickup guide or your athlete race packet that's a better way to saying it. It's going to include your bib, helmet sticker, swim cap, bike checkout ticket, which is super important, your wristband, which you'll affix before you leave the premises, and your morning clothes bag, which is very essential for this race. Talk about that in a minute. Athlete wristband, make sure you are wearing it at all times. Don't cut it off until you're absolutely positively sure you are done at the race site. Some people wait until Monday or Tuesday in race week just to be certain that they don't need to go back. So another huge thing here, athletes are not allowed to have any other stickers on their bike other than the frame sticker issued at this check-in or at this 70.3 2024 Chattanooga check-in. Any previous event stickers have to be removed for security purposes. Page 7 lists pre-race info like the physical address, the mandatory athlete briefings, and the mandatory bike check-in, which happens um, from Saturday, May 20th, from 9:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Again, there is no race morning check-in for bikes. This is not like a local sprint. Make sure you are showing up in the days preceding to check in. You are going to pick up your timing chip as previously discussed when you do check in. This top right one on page 7 lists our personal safety. On the bottom of this paragraph, swimming the course prior to race day is strictly prohibited. If you do get caught, you will be penalized, even though the race is not happening on that day. Also, they tell you to be safe on the roads, and that is a strong encouragement. Page 9 lists race day info. And again, you're not going to be able to check in on race morning. You have to do that in the days before. You are allowed to enter the transition. It will open at 4:30 a.m. Remember your timing chip, goggles, cap, wetsuit, if it's allowed, and a bike gear and run gear. Bike techs are going to be available. Pumps are going to be there, but it's best to kind of have a self-supported crew there. If you do have your Sherpas there, that makes things a little bit easier. Shuttles will take athletes to the transition start from 4:30 to 6:45 a.m. and are for athletes only. No spectators allowed. Morning clothes bag. We talked about this a little bit before. At this race, because you do have a shuttle from the transition to the swim start, you are also given the not mandatory, but the morning clothes bag. With this is everything that you're going to need after the race here. So in the morning, you're probably going to be wearing a sweater, things like that, trying to stay warm. Maybe you have some sandals or socks or shoes or whatever to keep your feet from getting too cold. And the list goes on. Everything to just keep you comfortable on race morning, and everything you need at the end of your race should be in those morning clothes bags. You are going to drop that off at the swim start. There's going to be a little place for you to do it. You'll just pop it up and throw it in there. I always go back and forth on putting phones in there because phones can fall out. They have been known to do that, but if you need to, you need to. Body marking, not going to be needed at this race. I think they should just take this paragraph out because most races don't do that anymore. Aid stations are going to be approximately every 15 miles apart on the bike and 1 to 1.5 miles apart on the run. The offerings are as follows on the bike. We have water. We also have Gatorade drink, Morton gels. We have Morton solids. And we also have bars and fruit. On the run, we also have water, Gatorade, cola, Morton gels, solids, bars, pretzels, chips, and fruit. Important at this race, they are going to have that mortal hydration. They are switching over from the Gatorade Endurance, but because it's not July yet, you guys still get to experience the Gatorade Endurance. So you're going to have a host of offerings. If you do want to learn a little bit more about the Mortal Hydration, please reach out to me. Definitely have some opinions on that. Timing chip, well, you will not receive it in your packet. You're going to stop at the table during bike check-in. A lot of repeat info here. And you must wear it on your left ankle for the duration of the race. Pretty much the second you wake up in the morning, just put it on race day, and that will eliminate a lot of stress. Page 10, race day info. This is our race timing and cutoffs. 8 hours and 30 minutes for the duration of the event. Swim cutoff is 1 hour and 20 minutes. Bike cutoff is 5:30 with one intermediate time check. That is at 11:55 at mile 30.4. Run cutoff is going to be the 8:30 total time, cumulative time, and there is going to be one intermediate run course cutoff check. And that's going to be at 3:30 p.m. at mile 6.8, which is the start of the second loop. Pretty self-explanatory there. They also say that transition cutoff times from when you switch from swim to bike and bike to run, they are going to close 10 minutes after those posted times. So for example, the swim of 1 hour and 20 minutes transition is going to close at 1 hour and 30. And if you don't escape T1 before 1:30 goes, you are not going to be allowed to proceed. If the water temp on race morning measures above 76.1 but less than 83.8 degrees Fahrenheit, the race will be wetsuit optional. If you choose to wear it, you're not going to be eligible for awards. So if you are trying to get that slot, don't wear it if it's that. If it's below 76.1, it's happy days for everyone. And if it's above 83.8, wetsuits are not even allowed. Scrolling down here, you can also list the race finish and timing and results on all that on page 10. Cool stuff. Race 11, race day health info. This is another new thing that they are listing out here. I'm going to read through some of this here. If you start to feel unwell at any point in the race, we urge you to seek help rather than continue. Something new here is during the swim. They are highlighting some of the things here. Raise your hand or wave your hand, or you can even yell help. If you are in distress, you can hang on to some of the kayaks in there, but if you do proceed forward, you will be disqualified. So if you do need to hang on to a kayak or something like that, that is totally allowed, but if you do receive forward assistance, that is not allowed. During the bike, if you're at an aid station, let someone know that you are in need of medical help. Um, and if you are not at an aid station, just stop and let someone know you need medical help, and that athlete can relay it at the next aid station or when they see an official or something like that. Just be aware and alert of everyone. During the run, same as the bike, stop at the aid stations if possible. If not, just wait and let some athletes know you need medical assistance. You are allowed to help another athlete. You're not going to be penalized for that. Make sure you take special note of their race bib number if you choose to leave them and go try to get further assistance. That's going to only help the situation. They also say that during the race at any time, if you experience chest pain, discomfort, shortness of breath, lightheadedness, dizziness, numbness around your hands, or difficulty concentrating, please stop immediately, seek medical attention. They also say that after the race finish, please do not leave the post-race area until you are able to drink without vomiting, stand without dizziness, or just generally feel okay. If you're not okay, make sure you are headed to that medical tent there. Scrolling down here, relay info is on page 13, but we're not going to talk about that. Post-race info on page 15, such as the gear checkout, athlete food, race photography, awards, which is happening at 4 p.m. And the lost and found are also listed there. In specific info for the qualifying, the slot allocations on page 17 for our 70.3 World Championship. Again, the awards will start at 4 at the Ironman Village, so be present no later than 4:15. I always thought that was a little silly. Just be aware. Just be there at 4. Maybe even 3:45. They do say it's pending the last finisher, but maybe just get there, just hang out, chill, and have your support crew get rid of all your stuff in the transition. So that way, once you're done, you can just roll on home. You can read more about that individually if you so choose. Page 19 has our first race discipline here, and this is the swim. First thing that we're going to highlight out here is the transition area. Transition area is here, and the swim start area is here. So that shuttle is going to get you from point A to point B. Now, when we are in our race, we are going to be sent off in kind of corrals or just a time trial start here. What is not super clear, it kind of goes back and forth, is if you are able to just shoot the gap right here, or if you do have to hug this way and then go that way on race day. A question you should be asking during the athlete check-in, and depending on where these buoys are, that's another thing that we definitely need to talk about, is this red buoy right here at the end. Usually that red buoy is placed on the opposite side of the line right there, so it forces you that you have to swim around it. Notice that is also the only red buoy out there because that is normally always the only turn on course, which is very, very nice. And again, just ask if that is a misprint or a mislabel, but an interesting note there. So let's dive into race specifics here. First thing that you need to note is the swim is a down current swim. So it's happy days for most people. You're probably going to achieve lifetime bests unless you do the Ironman California race. Now, the two different options that we mentioned before were shooting the gap, and if you can do that, that'd be great. I mean, in reality, you're not going to be able to do that. You are going to have to go out a little bit and then just sight over there if you can see this third sighting buoy. And this goes pretty much across the board here. Why swim the extra if you do not have to, right? Especially if there's people in front of you pulling you along in that down current swim, you're going to get a double whammy. So just follow the pack and just ride on down there. Because of that, because everyone knows this is a down current swim, and because everyone knows that they're going to want to try to get a best time here, these first 3 buoys are usually very, very highly contested. If you are a pro guy or girl, expect it to be a battle here, and expect people to not really break away kind of like they do at an outright swim. Just because you do have that downward current, stronger swimmers kind of get a little penalized here. And if a break does happen, it's usually going to happen right around that third buoy or before that first bridge, which we haven't talked about yet. Or could happen right at the beginning if someone just sends a flyer right on down and shoots on down the river. But that's highly unlikely. Now, for everyone else here, that first buoy, you just need to be establishing yourself. So as you get out to the water over here, that's not my arrow. As you get out to that first buoy over here, you're just going to want to establish yourself, get acclimated to the water. That first buoy is going to come fast. All right. After that point, you do have two more buoys to go before you have your first, let's call it a turn because there's a lack of turns, before you have your first real turn on course. Um, and again, similar to the pros, once you get up to that third buoy, the race dynamics change a little bit. People start to spread out a little bit more. And and once you get past that third buoy and it does start to spread out a little bit, the stronger swimmers are going to slowly drift away from you. And it's going to be those intermediate swimmers that are really going to pay the price here because they're going to be trying to stay with those faster swimmers because they've been able to for the first time ever or longer than ever before at a outright race. And that's where people really, really get opened up into issues are these next two buoys. We're going to highlight these three here because it's a kind of an overlapping area on the swim. And that happens across the pro field as well. You're going to see not inexperienced swimmers because everyone's pretty experienced, but you're going to see those mediocre mid-tier swimmers. They're going to try to hang with the big dogs, and the big dogs are going to let them pay for it. Okay, and you might be able to get out, but this is a swim where you definitely need to know your limits, and you're not going to be able to look at pace. You're just going to have to do this one on feel. All right, this is a big one for us, and something that I try to get a lot of our athletes to kind of get used to before race day is that feel of race pace on race day. And granted, you are going to be going faster out there, but that feeling is going to remain the same. So hunt for that feeling out there on race day, and that's going to really set you up for success in this area on race day. Now, believe it or not, after you get past here, it's going to be time to think about the swim finish. Another area that you need to be asking about is this buoy right here. Is that going to be on this side of the line or the other side of the line? Or is that just going to be a sighting buoy? If that is the case, why not shoot the gap even more? Create straight lines out there as much as possible. And again, I fully realize you're not going to be able to do that on the shoreline right there. You're going to have to swim a little bit in. And again, if the pack is out there and you're just rolling with the pack, just stay with the pack. Just rolling with the homies out there, you know? And this brings us to our last area right here. This is the last straight line. So we have, once we get established out here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then maybe a turn right there. So we have about 5 different lines on race day if you're doing it right, depending on what these two buoys are doing on race day. And again, once you get to this area, you need to be thinking about the transition. You need to start be thinking about the bike, and just like the previous the parts leading up to this point in time, it's going to be hitting and coming at you fast, right? So you're going to need to be thinking about the transition a little bit further out, getting your head, your mind, your body right. Maybe settling that heart rate down. Maybe you went a little too hard out there. And you're just going to need to be getting ready to go for the bike a little bit earlier than what you normally do. So experienced people out here, that transition does sneak up on you fast, and we do have a little bit of a jog from the swim exit to the transition area. And that is our swim in a nutshell. Be smart out there. Page 20 has the swim course rules, wetsuit limits, as we already talked about. And then after that, heading out onto the bike. This is a one loop bike course. Let's zoom out a little bit so we can get a little bit more of it in the spotlight here. Going off over to our this is the best bike split software that we use for our athletes here. This is a race profile of you, and let's get rid of elevation and speed just so you can see the power, and it's pretty chunky out there. You're never going to really be, like slotted in one gear for an extended period of time. You're not really going to have to worry about that on a course like this. Constantly up and down. This is our elevation profile here. We're also going to dive into it a little bit more. So as we just highlight, say this 10-mile stretch here, 11.3 mile stretch, you can see that the hills are very, very jagged out here. So what you need to do here is take the downhills and drive them a little bit more than you normally do so you can get up those uphills. So this is a course where punchier athletes are going to be a little bit more successful. Those really, really hill climb athletes, they're they might struggle a little bit more unless they can change their pedaling style. But for the most part, that is where the successful athletes come from on a course like this. Those athletes that are just constantly just keeping the tension on the chain, constantly biting on the pedal force, and that is really going to pay huge dividends later on. Now, the trick is to not bite too much on those downhills, because if you overcommit to the downhills, eventually that is going to just catch up to your legs as well. It's an effort just like any other. So power people, watch the curve and just put this on your computer and just simulate it as best as you can when you're out there. The first couple of miles are going to be a little condensed. They're going to be a little athlete heavy, just like the swim, and then it is going to spread out until later on in the event here. And as we go over, I want you to watch our little bike guy here. That arrow is the wind. And as we head out, we are going to experience a head/crosswind coming from the left side of our bike, which means, I mean, this is typical or usual. This might be different on race day, but that left crosswind means that it is going to slow you down a little bit more. So there's just going to be a little bit more drag out there than usual. Once you get to about, I think it's 8, 9 miles, then the hills really, really start, and it's just a steady, just pummeling up and up and up and up. And you can see here that we do have a headwind, and it just continues pretty much all the way down. So that means a couple of different things. When you get out on the bike, pros, be ready for a battle. It's always, always hard for that first, let's call it 20 miles here. And this is 25 miles here. So you're just going to have to be ready for that nth degree of difficulty out there. People are going to be trying to get an advantage in the aero position. They're going to be trying to get away from the groups. Groups are going to be trying to establish themselves. If the wind is really ripping, then you're going to have to weigh your pros and cons of sticking with the group or just going solo mission out there. And again, that's a little race day dynamics. That's a little different for you. Age groupers, you should not do this unless you are the kind of the front runners trying to qualify. This effort here is kind of a fool's errand for the vast majority of people. But for those people trying to get those slots, you're going to have to put down the power here a little bit, no matter what. And we're really, really dishing about this section right here. This, let's call it 20-mile stretch. Elevation gain 934 feet of our, let's call it 2,100 feet. So a substantial chunk right here, and this is just 20 miles. And you're going to get the remainder of it in a couple of different places. The obvious other one is going to be this section right here where you do have about, let's call it 230 feet of elevation gain. Didn't highlight it all, but so that is what it is. Now, if we scroll down here, you can also see that that hill is also listed out there on race day, so that is not a mistake or a misprint. Before we dive a little bit deeper into the race course, we have a couple different aid stations out here. First big one, this aid station right here. Is that going to be on both sides? Ask at your athlete check-in. Next one we have is right immediately after at that 15-mile mark, and then right after the 30-mile mark, and then right after the 45-mile mark, and then you're back in. So you do have at least 3 opportunities to get fuel. In my mind, on a course like this, all of these aid stations are no-miss aid stations. Pace is going to be high, especially going, or at least effort's going to be high, especially going out. And as we continue on our bike course, the remainder here, let's take this power out here. This is going to be a jagged downhill section all the way back. And once we get to the bottom here, the wind does slowly shift a little bit. You're going to experience a crosswind from the right. If you're lucky, you're going to have a cross tailwind with a tailwind in some sections here. So yes, this is going to be a little bit faster of a section here, at least usually. But don't commit to that fully. Make sure you're tracking the weather. Make sure you're tracking the winds out there on race day, okay? And that is going to be very, very, very beneficial for you because you'll have a leg up on the competition. All that being said, do not expect it to just be coming from one direction. Expect it to swirl. It always, always swirls out there. It's kind of very akin to Cambridge, Maryland. The wind comes from one direction until it comes from all of the directions. So as you continue down this rolling downhill section, I'll bring the power back so you can see it here. That tailwind does become a little bit more prominent, especially when we slowly make our way back onto that main stretch. We do have, however, one of the major hills out here, and if we go back here, we can show you exactly what we're talking about. The major hill out here is about, let's call it 3% grade max. out there. Nothing super, super crazy, but because it comes at 41 miles into the race, you're going to feel this one big time. Pros, this is going to be a major jumping point for athletes. And if this isn't one, check out these two little bunny hills right here. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Age groupers. This is going to be a very, very common place for athletes to, again, make that jump or do that over here. Age groupers, I would kind of eat this hill and turn this one into just a steady state effort. Again, it's going to be a little bit higher, but make it controlled rather than a huge, huge surge. This goes from 40.6 all the way up to about 43.6, so about 3 miles of hill mixed in there. And again, it's not super crazy. Depending on the wind, you might be able to be in aero a little bit out there, and it just depends on what happens out there on race day. Switching back over here, once we do that, we are going to drop back down onto the main drag here, and that is something that I for sure did not mention here. So let's dive in. Something that you're going to see here, I wish I highlighted this a little bit different. Here we go. Is this corner right through here. Chances are the speed is going to be a little up. This little mound here is definitely going to help, but you do drop down again. And this corner right here, make sure you take it safe. They're going to have lots of markers out there for people to stay safe, but that is just a little warning out there that turn might get you. And again, not too many turns, outright turns on this course, so you're safe for the vast majority of this. After you do that, the work is not done when you get back onto the main drag here. We do have 10 and a half, let's call it 11 miles left, and also 290 feet of our elevation gain are happening there. Once we do get over here, that tailwind kind of goes away. Unfortunately, you're going to have a crosswind, you're going to have a headwind coming back into town, so you can't use all your stuff in on that tailwind downhill section. This is a course where you do have to save a little bit for the back end to get back into town. And again, that's not always the case, but it's normally the case. So with that, let's go back to our profile here with our aid stations and think about this aid station right here. Chances are you're going to be rolling at this time right here. Make sure you don't have your head in the clouds and just totally fly through this aid station, because coming at mile, let's call it 46 here for this aid, we do have a substantial amount of time to go. And coupled with that it is into a headwind, or at least you have that crosswind coming from the right, disturbing things, making it hard on you. You know, you just need to hit that aid station, whether it's to cool yourself off, whether it's to stay smart nutritionally. That is going to be the last major, major opportunity for you. And the last big thing here that we have not talked about thus far is our heat. So with this, let's go and look at the predicted temperature out here. So on race day, we're projected to have a temperature of 64 to 65 degrees. I'm going to tell you right now, it's probably going to be a little bit hotter than that. And if it's not, it's going to feel hotter. So with that, you need to go into some of your heat protocols on race day, trying to stay cool as much as possible, managing your heart rate, managing your extra stress on the bike. That is all going to be very, very critical on race day for success on the run, which we haven't even discussed yet. And again, just expect it to be hot. And if it's not hot, just cherry on the top for you, okay? But if it is hot, manage that heat. That is going to be probably, if not the biggest thing out there, it's going to be one of the top 3 for you, okay? Watch out, watch out, watch out. Time analysis here, one of my favorite things to discuss for a course like this. This is our 5% faster over here. Originally, we had a time of 2:17 even Steven, and this is going to net us, again, this is going to adjust about 2.25 minutes for us, so we're going to get a little bit faster here, of course. But again, the biggest thing that you should be aware of out here are all these little micro places to gain time, to gain a little bit of an edge. Because of that, pros, people are going to be staking out and picking out specific hills to kind of put a lean on you. You're going to have to constantly be aware out there, and you're going to have your head on a swivel pretty much the entire day. It's not like some of the other courses where you can kind of turn your brain off a little bit and some of the attacks are going to happen at specific places just because there's nowhere else to do it. On this course, there are loads of places to put the hammer down. Always be aware, keep looking around. At this course, I would recommend not an arrow helmet with a teardrop. I would recommend more of just a head covering so you can kind of keep looking around and just always being aware of what's happening around you on race day because the fireworks are going to be happening pretty much the entire bike. Just a heads up. And that's the bike in a nutshell here. Scrolling down, page 27 lists some of the bike course rules. One of the major ones is the overtaking athletes. You do have 25 seconds to pass, and you do have 25 seconds to fall back and let that go. The bicycle draft zone is 12 meters long. That is 6 bikes back to back to back to back to back to back. I think that was enough. Those are the biggest ones. When you are riding single file, make sure you're staying on the far right side, except for when you're passing another rider. And again, because of the Ironman Texas debacle that happened with packs and packs of people, I'm just going to predict that there's going to be drafting police out here in force. They'd be ridiculous not to out there. Page 28 also talks about some additional rules. Make sure you read those. Biggest one is do not litter. This is something new again this year, page 29. Directional signs. This is what they're going to look like to mark off where the bike course is happening. Aid stations. They're going to let you know. Caution, aid station ahead. This last chance trash is going to be the last area where you are allowed to litter off to the right-hand side of the road. Kudos if you get it into the trash bin for no cleanup for the volunteers. And there is no more trash sign. So after you see this sign, if you are caught littering, you are going to receive a violation. There are going to be hazard signs, bump, caution, slow. There is going to be the bike cutoff sign, or I believe that is at 11:55. I remember off the top of my head. 30.5 miles. Mile marker signs, 5, 10, 15, 20 in 5-mile increments. There's also going to be course arrows on the road as well. So loads of different things this year. Course should be marked a little bit better at these races across the board than in years past. All right. This is our run. So you get off on the transition and then you head out for the run. Keep in mind, unlike the bike, this is a 2.25 looped course. So when you go out here, you're going to pass this section right where the arrow is, and you're going to keep going on the parkway. You're going to go up, down, around, and then back. Once you hit this section again, you're going to hit the parkway again, and back you go. Once you hit this section for the third time, right, you are going to peel off. So that's once when you cross it on the first loop. When you go back on the second loop, bam, that's number 2. And then start the second loop, and when you go back, and boom, number 3. When you have finished the second loop, you're going to veer off left, boom, straight into the finish. Happy days for you. All right, and this is our run course elevation. Looks like this on the Ironman website. You guys already know I have one of the only working models of these 70.3 run this year. This is our one loop over here, and you can get a little bit more info in a second. So starting out here, we are going to be driving down a slight downhill. We're going to be going right along the water. Spectators are everywhere. It's a great time. For you, this is not a great time. All right, this is a time where you need to have real focus. You need to slow down out there. Slow down. What's your heart rate doing? How much food did you have? All of these things need to be going through your mind. Running form, right up there with everything else, okay? Pace or power, whatever you're running with, should not be one of the first things out here unless you are a pro chasing the pack. If you're an age grouper, just get down the road for a little bit. All right. If you are a pro, you're going to have to be going right from the get-go. The bike is going to be fireworks, and you're going to follow that up on the run. This is pretty much a go from the beginning, and it just lasts all the way through here on a course like this. Again, this is only one loop mapped out, so we're going to go through this, and then I'll talk to you about what happens afterwards. First loop, after we get down here, this is our major check and follow the orange dot up top on the map. Then after we slowly get away from people, we are going to go up, 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 up our first big hill. And again, this ends at 0.82, 0.83 miles on course. What that means for you is this is happening within the first mile. So a lot of athletes get a little mental shock when they get to this point, like, oh my goodness, I am not going to have a good day. After that, it is undulating after that. But it comes at a cost. Not really a whole lot of shade out there. So if this is a hot, hot day, again, heat protocols should be going, should be blaring in your head right now. What's my heat? What's my heart rate? What's my pace? And it just continues nonstop throughout the day. This undulating downhill stretch lasts for the bulk of the parkway over here. And again, this isn't a super specific map, but this is close. And as you get through here, this is when you can kind of start running again. Normally, right through here, this is at 1.2, 1.3 miles mixed in here. This is gonna be where you have a lot of athletes slowly starting to open up a can on everyone. Athletes who are doing the opposite, opening up a can in that first zero point 0.8 miles, they're gonna usually pay for it later on. You're gonna usually hunt them down on that second lap there. As you continue through here, it does drop off a little bit more. So you're going to have to actively be watching your form. Are you overstriding? What's going on? Are you starting to cramp up? Shorten that stride. Be mentally aware. Don't ignore it here. This is just the first 2 miles of our race so far. So there's a lot going on here, and it comes fast, and a lot of athletes just ignore these first 2 miles. Don't respect these first 2 miles, and it will pay off huge dividends for you, whether you're a pro or an age grouper here. Now, as we continue here, this slowly turns into more flat / undulating terrain over here. This is our back section when we go along the river here. And again, might not be 100% accurate, but it's close. And as we continue here, once you get to 2.3, you better be ready to rock and roll. If you're not, you're going to be losing places out there easily. People are going to be catching you. So you need to be ready to go at 2.3 because that is go time. As you progress through back here, if you are not feeling good, just get down the road, go through your checklist. If you are feeling good, this should be your race pace. It's first loop. It should not be superhero pace right here. Just be in control here. Very hard to do. As we continue through this little undulating section back through here, and we pop through the little neighborhood here and pop up to the main road, we are going to slowly get up to a major hill on here on race day. And if I could highlight that, that would be great. Here we go. This section right through here is one of the steepest sections on race course. You see here that does have a couple of 7%ers in there, and that is no joke. It does max out over at 8%-ish, ish. And again, elevation gain is 81 feet for our, let's call this, what is this, 0.5 miles here. And that's pretty substantial when you think about it. We only have 335 feet of elevation gain on each loop. 81 of them happen right here. Another common launch pad for a lot of pros here, and that does come at mile 4.25, so 4.25 there, and it does last until that 4.7. At this point, you do cross over the bridge. The bridge is another notoriously hard area. A lot of athletes see this and they say, wow, I can't wait for that. That's going to be a little easier section. In reality, it is not. It's going to be very exposed to elements. If there's wind out there, if it's been hot for this point of the race, right? Those first 5 miles. If it's been super hot and the wind is just blowing on that bridge, you do open yourself up to get a little cold out there, and your body starts kind of going through havoc out there. So again, those bridges should not be viewed as a kind of recovery area. Those bridges should be viewed as kind of a stepping stone or just a layer that you need to get through. A challenge is probably a better word. Crossing over the challenge, we do go up and back through here, and you are going to have to climb up to the turnaround, and then it's going to drop you back down. You're going to veer off, and you're going to zigzag up to Walnut Street, where you are going to take a left-hand turn, and you are going to be climbing up over this bridge, and that is the first loop. Climbing up over this bridge, this Walnut Street bridge, again, this is another common area where athletes just get crushed, and the bridge just eats them. Again, view the bridges as the challenge over here. So we have challenge 1, we have a turnaround, which is also going to be a challenge right through here, and then challenge 3, it comes fast, all right? The back half of our loop is a little bit harder than the first half of our loop. Now, as you get down over here, this is our second loop, so we are going to start this from about right through here. So again, after we do get off of the bridge, we are going to have a little bit of a climb on that parkway again, and it's right back out there into the elements. If it's hot, watch out. But again, you'll be able to get down this a little bit easier the first time. It's going to be a little more steady. That's probably a better word. You're going to be in a little bit more control. Usually, pros, this is a great opportunity for you to kind of unleash the beast a little bit here. And again, this parkway section, when you get off of it and you're running along the river here, that is, in my mind, I view that as race pace area. I do not view that as superhuman pace there. A common trap for a lot of people that isn't out and back, and you can kind of sucker some people into, maybe doing the fake suffer out there and really having them put themselves into a hole, and then you're just happy days when they catch up. See you never. Bye. And again, we are going to gear ourselves up for challenge number 1, which is this big hill over here. Challenge number 2, crossing this bridge. Just be smart. Don't overdo it. Crossing the challenge number 3 is this turnaround again. It's the same thing, right? But it's going to sting a little bit more. You're going to be much deeper into the race at this point, and then you're going to have to climb up and over this bridge one last time. Now, a section that is not on this map is going reverse. So you're going to have a nice little downhill going under Walnut Street back into our finish area there. And a lot of people wait to really push the pace on this downhill section coming off of the bridge. I would use the bridge as kind of a springboard, or even the turnaround if you're feeling good. If you're feeling great, I mean, obviously just backs up a little bit further on the race course. But do not wait until the last downhill to totally floor it out there, okay? That means you're just leaving a lot on the table out there. Scrolling back down here, run course rules are listed on page 37 of our athlete guide. Page 38 has much of the same thing on the bike. A couple of things different: rough surface, uneven surface, watch your step. Please be aware of these. Every year we have a couple of athletes stumble, trip, whatever, fall on the run, and you've taken your spill on the run and not the bike, which is always interesting. The arrows should be a little bit different. Make sure you ask the directional arrows that your athlete check in what color is what out there, so you can expect it on race day. Overall rules listed on page 41. Make sure you read those. I keep scrolling down here because I am hunting for the violations page, which is on page 46. It doesn't list all of them, but it lists a good amount of them, So if you are on the bike and you do receive a blue card, you are going to receive a 5-minute time penalty, and you have to serve it at the penalty tent on course. Something they never do is list where the penalty tent is on the athlete map, and it drives me crazy. Make sure you ask where the tent is when you check in. Littering violation is the same, a blocking violation. So if you don't let someone complete a pass within 25 seconds, you are going to receive a 30-second time penalty. If you do get a red card flashed at you, you are disqualified and your time will not count. Please read some of these extra things here, and it will definitely help you on race day. And that is our race summary strategy for 70.3 Chattanooga 2024. Good luck, everyone. And if you need any help specifically, or you want to talk numbers or shop, just let me know. Happy to help you achieve your race goals. Good luck, everyone.